So welcome everybody. I think everybody might know each other, but why don't we just go around real quick and just say your name, just go around real quick. So Don, let's start with you. Don's a friend of mine who's joining into the Omer with us tonight. So
I'm Don McAvinci here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
great.
Don. Let's go give Don a good most welcome.
Yay! Okay, don't be shy, just jump out. Let's not take a lot of time.
Roxanne Schuler, coming at you from Rockville, Maryland.
Yay, thank you. Welcome.
Judy
Oh.
from Silver Spring, Maryland.
Hey, Judy, welcome.
I'm Diane from Arlington.
Hi, Diane.
Not Arlington, Texas, though. Arlington, Virginia.
I'm Amy.
That's right.
I'm Amy. I'm in Bethesda, Maryland.
Welcome, Amy.
Naira from Fairfax, Virginia.
Naira.
I'm Rabbi Mark. I'm the captain of the HMS Moshe. And I'm in Washington, D.C.
Welcome, Rabbi Mark.
Thank you, Yael.
I'm Devorah. I'm in Toronto, the Toronto area in Canada.
Welcome, Devorah.
I'm Marlena, and I'm in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Great.
Susan, speak up or forever hold your peace.
Susan from Alexandria, Virginia.
Hey, welcome, Susan.
And Neil? Neil, I will unmute you. Go ahead. Tell us where you are, Neil.
Delaware.
Hey, Neil, welcome. Good to see you. Mary Rita.
Mary Rita, Silver Spring, Maryland.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So here we are. We are in the second week of counting the Omer. And I was wondering who here counts the Omer? Who's counting this year? All right. And what are some of the ways you count the Omer? Neira, can you tell us?
The way I count the Omer this year is a nightly walk in the dark with 2 chants, one for each of the Sefirot represented by that night, and a contemplation of the exact meaning of the day.
Wow, lovely. Who else raised their hand that's counting? Mary Rita.
I start the evening of the day, and I've been using Rabbi Yael Levy's book for a couple of years, but I also have yours, and I usually read a poem from yours, and then I've been taking time to journal. And then the next morning when I'm meditating, I take what have been some of the gems of the journaling, and just what it's been doing is I find this year that I'm really like rooting in the spirit of the week, but then also get such a sense of all, each day also in a way that I hadn't before.
Wonderful. Bringing it in. Who else is counting? Marlena. Then Rabbi Mark.
Okay, I'm using Yael Levy's book, which I know a few people are using. It's just what Mary Rita said. I look at it in the morning, I look at it again at night, but I'm incorporating it because the words are so beautiful into loving kindness meditations I do in the morning and during the day. So it's a beautiful flow.
Excellent. Yeah, her stuff's great. I get her emails. Reb Mark.
I have been chanting the melody that Shir Yaakov co-wrote, and we'll be using that before the end of this evening. As well, this year, Manishtana Hashana Hazora, I've been counting the hostages and a new name for every night. So that is something different during the prayerful gatherings that we've been doing as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. Who else is counting this year that I haven't gotten? Okay. Oh, Devorah.
Well, I had a slow start to it because I was away. And so I'm just figuring out what I'm doing because I have too many things to look at once. So I have to narrow it down. So I'm looking forward to guidance tonight.
Excellent, excellent. Spoken like a true rabbinic student. And Roxanne.
I'm using Rabbi Yael Levy's book and using it in my meditation and
Lovely.
singing the song that Reb Mark was talking about as my prayer.
Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else that you're sharing that? Oh, Susan, please.
Yeah, I'm using a book written by a Reform Rabbi, Karen Kedar, and she doesn't use the Kabbalistic approach, but picks 7 values, and the value for this week is discern, and she includes text and a poem, and I read that and think about what I've read, and listen
Beautiful.
to them counting the Omer on the morning minyan that I attend.
Beautiful, everybody, beautiful. So back in 2013, just real quick, my story is that I started reading various books like by Rabbi Jill Hammer and some of the other books, Min Kantrowitz and other folks. And I had, I'd written poetry since I was 16, and then a friend of mine challenged me, and she made me this necklace so that she put a bead in a little package. And then so for 49 days, I took this piece of metal that was part of the necklace and I put a bead on it. So it gave me like a count that way, which actually was a really cool idea. So I ended up with a really lovely necklace at the end. And I started writing poems, and that was in 2013. And it developed for me into, my latest book around it. And as a creative spring cleanse and as an opportunity to practice anti-perfectionism. So I said, I'm going to be really easy with myself. I'm going to just write something and then move on. Just write something and move on, write something and move on. And so I also started looking at other aspects of things. I might look at angels, or I might look at the Kabbalistic meaning of the month that I'm in, or I might just look at all different kinds of things to give me inspiration. But really what gives me most of my inspiration is nature. And that just tends to be what I end up using in my poems. And I usually also only give myself 15 minutes to write the poem. And so whatever comes out, comes out. And a lot of times I just write something, and I put my name on it. I'm like, I don't know no idea what that's about, but it's what just came out. So that's what I'm going to do. And so I've been doing it every year now. This is my 12th year, I think. And I have these wonderful collages of my life over those 49 days. And a couple of years ago, I decided to write a haiku every day instead, because so I kind of wind it up that way. But I also love to talk about storytelling. So what we're going to do today as part of the Omer, does everybody have something to write with and a piece and some paper and pen and all that? Okay, good, because we're going to be doing some writing. And so I like to talk about storytelling and writing I call them the 4 pillars of storytelling. And I talk about how we access story, how we embody stories, how we tell stories, and how we witness stories. So how we access stories, how we embody stories, how we tell stories, and how we witness stories. And that's both how we are for our own stories, as well as how we receive other people's stories. So today, and excuse me for having a juniper cough, which is an allergy out here in New Mexico. So today we're going to go through all 4 of those pillars of storytelling while we're doing our writing. So just as a quick overview of what we do in timed writing is we're going to talk about the attribute of the week, which is Gevurah, and we're going to do some talking about that, talk about that attribute, and then we're going to do 5-minute timed writings, and we'll see how many we get to do. And a timed writing means if you're writing with a pen or pencil or on your computer, you just don't stop writing. And the goal of timed writing is to bypass this beautiful brain and just kind of let other stuff dump through. Don't worry about grammar or spelling or anything of the sort. Just let things come through. So if you're writing, you start writing from the prompt, and the prompt is just a doorway. You don't have to write. If I say the color green, you can write, do whatever you want. It's just a doorway. When I think about the color green, oh, that reminds me of blah, blah, blah. Now you might get to a certain point in that 5 minutes when you go, I want to stop because I'm thinking, and I want you to continue. And you can write the words blah, blah, blah. You can write the words, why did I do this? You can write the words, I'm hungry. You can write, I don't like Yael anymore. You can write whatever you want, but just keep writing. Okay, so that's the timed writing kind of protocol. And then afterwards, after that 5-minute timer, I'll just say, just finish up your sentence. You might end up coming back to it if you want to. And then there'll be an opportunity to share. And when we share, where we go in, so that's us accessing the story when we're writing the story. And so we're going to then start telling our stories. And what's really interesting about timed writing is that when you read your story out loud, when you tell that story, whether you just read it to yourself in the mirror or tell somebody else, often you'll hear things in your story that you didn't even remember writing. And so that's part of the beauty of writing our story. And as Flannery O'Connor says, I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. I'll say that again. I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. And that's very true for me. And we'll see how true it is for you when we do some of our timed writings and our readings. So when we read, just read your passage, and then we have to talk about what it means to be a good listener. And so when we're writing and when we're listening, we do it with Lev Shemaya, a listening heart. And so that means when we're listening to somebody read, if we want to comment, if we go, oh, that really resonates with me, please, this is no place for psychoanalysis. This isn't about supporting somebody if they've written something that brings a tear to your eye. A way to witness somebody's writing is strictly saying how something resonated for you. Wow, when you said how the sky turned black and you felt this and that really hit me in the heart, really got that. That's the kind of sharing that we're looking for. And again, since we're not in a strict writers group, I may stop sharing at a certain point so we can move on to the next writing. So that's kind of what we're doing today. Does anybody have any questions before we begin? Awesome. Okay, so Givora, what does this mean? So let's popcorn some words out, and I'm going to write them down because these are going to form the basis of some of our writing prompts. So who can tell us, what does Givora mean to you? I think and just make sure you're not muted if you have anything to share. Unmute yourself. Marlena, were you starting to share something?
I wasn't, but you want popcorn?
Popcorn. I love popcorn. What is it? Innocent.
Inner strength.
Inner strength. Inner strength. Okay. Great. Rabbi
Where I
Mark,
stand.
where you stand, where you stand, where I stand. Great. Who else? Go for it.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Good.
Container of light.
Container of light. Okay. What else?
Riverbanks.
Riverbanks. Lovely imagery, Rabbi.
Discernment.
Discernment. Anybody else? What does discernment mean? Let's go a little deeper. When we discern something, how does it feel in your body? What happens for you when you're very discerning or when you're not discerning? How do you know you're being discerning? What's an indication?
I'll just jump in with this and you can play with it. Recognition of nuances.
Great. And for you, what's a particular type of nuance?
Quality, degree, intensity, a source, in other words, the same phenomenon on the surface may have many different underlying aspects.
Could it kind of be like when you're looking at a stream and there's light on it and it's glittering and there's all these different kind of nuances to it, something like that?
Yeah, and all the little fish underneath and the rocks.
Cool. Thank you, Meira. Anybody else? What do, Devora, please, more.
Oops. Well, I think of discerning first as pausing and just seeing what comes and looking at the faces on the screen when you ask the questions and the silence that we had. That's a good reflection of what discernment looks like to me.
Ah, lovely imagery. Okay. The pause. Mary Rita.
There's like a rippling around, like in my gut. Like there's just a rippling that I feel in my body, in my gut.
Does it feel pleasant or some other
Oh yeah,
sense?
yeah, no, it's yes, pleasant's not the right word. It's
Okay.
it's it's like a wheel spinning, you know, like, but a pinwheel spinning.
Good imagery. Thank you.
I think there's greater awareness and insight with discernment.
And Susan, how do you know you're experiencing greater awareness or insight?
You just sense it. You intuitively sense it.
Okay, great. And how do you know your boundaries? Oh, Mark, please.
Discernment, is that what you asked
Yes,
about?
yes, still discernment.
Discernment is a quality of when things, you allow things to slow down to a pace where you can watch each of the individual pieces of snow within a snow globe fall after shaking it, but individually and collectively. So you can see the parts within the whole and see the whole itself.
Okay, anybody else? That's wonderful. Thank you. Don?
There's a sense for me about, at first, about feeling a difference between myself or things that I think and something else. So discerning the difference. But then it sort of quickly shifts sometimes to discerning the similarities or the sameness. So it's a funny mix of those things.
Interesting. Thank you. Anybody else have more on discernment? Okay, I'm going to move to boundaries. How do you know that you have a boundary, you don't have a boundary? How do you know when a boundary is crossed? How do you know if you need one? What's it feel like? What's the experience like?
When Renee yells at me.
Double-digit marriages get it all the time. Anybody else?
My body, if I'm not keeping the boundary, my body gets tense, almost telling me that I need a boundary. There's a real sense, it's a felt sense when I feel that the boundary is there and there's a kind of a safety with it, then there feels like the body, the energy of my body feels balanced. And and well, I just got the image. I was thinking of just having like a force field, the force of like the God field around me.
Awesome. Okay, the force field, the God force field. Anybody else?
I feel burdened, and I can feel it in my shoulders, like I'm carrying a burden. If I need to make a boundary, like that my boundary has been crossed, or I didn't make a boundary, and then when I do and I stand by it, I feel free and calm.
Great. Anybody else? Deborah.
Well, unfortunately, I came to boundaries very late, very recently, actually, and to understand them. So I'm always in this dance between when something's crossed. I can tell how upset I am when, and then I can backtrack and go, okay, that was a boundary, or know that I have to set boundaries, but I'm not always good at it. And the awareness that I have to set a boundary when I haven't, and I'm afraid to, is also very daunting.
Judy.
I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, I'm going to read a poem to wet your whistle, and then we're going to go into some writing, so get ready. So tonight is, well, let's pretend it's dark wherever we are, and that we're moving into Gevora Sheba Gevora, right? We've got the double-digit Gevora that starts at night tonight. So we are moving into the second night of Gevora. So that's what we're going to do some writing on. Unless the group wants to retain some of the loving kindness within Gevora squeeze it out in the last hour of light. So I'm going to let the group decide. What would you prefer? We still got Gevora, so we're going to be working with it. Raise your hand if you want to squeeze some light out of the chesed in Gevora. And okay, thank you. And raise your hand if you want Gevora squared. Okay, you all have to vote. So you have to vote. You can't abstain. So Don, what we're talking about, and everybody who we're talking about, so the nights, everything, the new days start at night. So we are still in the loving kindness within strength and boundaries time period until it gets dark. So let's start. I've got 2 people who want loving kindness and 1 who wants to move into 2 people. Okay, who wants loving kindness within Gevora? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Who wants Gevora within Gevora? To start with that. Okay, we've got Gevora squared. So sorry for you can always, and look, it's a prompt, right? It's a doorway. So if you want loving kindness, you can always access loving kindness. You don't have to do what anybody says. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're gonna rebel against all of it. So, okay, good. So here is from the book. And these are poems I wrote, I think in 2014-ish or so. So here's the prompt that I happened to write for this book. I said, strength within strength, boundaries within boundaries, discernment within discernment. Today is a supercharged day of strength, boundaries, and discernment. Discern who and what you welcome into your most precious, innermost sacred spaces. Discern who and what you welcome into your most precious, innermost sacred spaces. Investigate the boundaries around your heart. Are they like a cozy blanket before a winter fire, surrounding you with warmth? Or is your heart so well protected that even you can't enter those gates to hear your own song? And the poem that I wrote for that one is called Heart Roar. See, I used heart, and it's not even a heart day. You do whatever you want. Heart roar. You are walking the perimeter again, girl. Alert to the possibility that maybe, perhaps, danger lurks around the bend. And a tiger, sleek and saber-toothed, might be posing in the backyard, next to the green-hatted gnomes, patiently guarding against rogue fairies. And the frivolous wind leaks its power, wailing its way through the arroyo, crowded with cacti, prickly and protective, guardians of your heart. Listen, girl, to the gate squeaking open. Let the tiger in. Let your heart roar. Okay, are you guys ready to do some writing?
Can you repeat the prompts?
I haven't done any prompts yet. I've just kind of read you.
Oh,
So
sorry.
that's great. So here's the prompt. Ready?
I'm trained from most breakthrough rooms.
Well, maybe we'll give each other a blessing at the end. That might be fun.
And maybe you'll put it in the chat.
And oh, that's even better. Thank you for that. Okay. So here's the prompt. And we're not going to go and break through them, so it won't lose it. Okay. Hang on, let me look at your stuff. Okay, so we're gonna go very broad. I'm just gonna go for like 3 minutes for the first prompt. So here we go. Once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned a blank. Once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned. And I'll let you know when it's 3 minutes. Okay, everybody, finish up your sentence. We just started out a little shorter of time, then we will move into next time. Who feels like sharing what you wrote? And you don't have to share if you don't want to. Feel free to raise your hand if you feel like sharing. Devorah.
Okay, I will share. Once upon a time, far, far away, which was really a long time ago, I discerned a world I wanted to enter, the world of Jewish, the world of God, the world of learning and challenging and deeply thinking and discerning, and I entered. And I fought to stay in it until I couldn't fight anymore. My boundaries said leave, save myself all the pain, until I finally grew older, wiser, and saw my way back to where I am now, immersed where I am meant to be.
Lovely. Who has any reflections for Devorah? Any phrases or words or ideas that stuck out to you? Feel free to raise your hand. Well, I'll go. I immediately was drawn into it, the dream of Judaism, and I was drawn into that and started, feeling all of that movement that you were discussing. So great. See some other nodding heads. Cool. Okay, who else wants to share? Thank you, Devorah, for going first, being brave. Okay, going, gone. You want to move on to the next writing prompt? Rabbi Mark, thank you. Good. And then Susan, yes. Oh, and then
Yeah,
Amy,
but Amy has
yay!
her hands up too, so I will take my place at the end of the line.
Okay, got it. Amy.
Okay. Once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned that I can do things even when I'm tired. It may not be perfect or as good as when I have energy, but that's okay. I can't wait until I feel good, until I feel like quote unquote good to live my life, because that may never happen. Learning to do things when I'm not at 100% is my lesson in this lifetime.
Wow, thank you, Amy. Who might want to do some reflection about what touched you about what Amy wrote? Neura.
It touched me that it may not be perfect.
It
But
may not be perfect.
do it anyway.
And do it anyway. Thank you, Meira. Deborah, do you have something to share? Yeah.
Yeah, what I heard was self-compassion.
Yeah. It really resonated for me also, the idea of tiredness, and so tired that feeling like I don't want to do anything, but then there's an ability. There's something else there. There's something in the well of that I can access. Any other reflections for Amy? Susan, you want to reflect?
No, I want to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to ask a question about this technique that we're using, this timed writing thing. What's the point or the power or the reason why we're doing this in this particular way? What is it supposed to do, and what is it supposed to, how is it supposed to work?
Got it. I love your question. Let's see if there's any other reflections from Amy first about Amy's reading, and then I'll get to your questions. That sound okay, Susan?
Fine.
Cool. Diane, did you, oh, I'm sorry, Roxanne, did you have your hand up about a reflection?
Yes, and then I lost it when I was listening to Susan.
No problem. If it comes, do you think? give you a
It
second.
had a lot to do with just not waiting, and I just felt like there was a deep truth or learning I could walk away with from that,
Mm,
from that. I really appreciated it. Yeah.
mm. Thank you, Roxanne. Anybody else have any reflections for Amy? Okay, great. Does anybody else want to read their writing before I move on to Susan's question? Anybody else want to read? Rabbi Mark, did you want to read? I won't forget you, Susan. Don't worry. I got you.
My only hesitation in reading is whether I can read my handwriting. Once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned that I'm not sure why you insisted on being so far away. I have been calling you since I drew in my first breath. I had no words for it at the time. Maybe I should have taken that as an instruction to search for you in silence, which is where, once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned you, smiling on me, whispering your love, caressing my very life, insisting on sharpening me by testing me like you tested my grandpa, Abraham. You see, I've been paying attention.
Thank you, Reb Mark. Who has any reflections for Reb Mark's sharing?
Mm. I don't know if your actual grandpa was named Abraham, but I think you were referring to the Abraham, and I loved how you drew him so close as to call him your grandpa. That really struck me to just draw him that close.
Thank you, Roxanne. Deborah.
I'll just say I'm totally mush listening to something like that. It's just, and the sky turned pink while you read. It is just so so real a journey. I relate to it very deeply. Thank you.
Vera.
The whole passage resonated with love for me.
Yeah, and for me, from the first few words, I just heard this yearning. I've been waiting for you my whole life. I really resonated with that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I felt longing through the whole thing.
Yeah. Marlena?
I was just going to say, from the first breath, full continual life journey.
Don?
Really resonated with the sense of the finding this this essence in the silence.
Okay, very good. Any other reflections for Reb Mark? Does anybody else want to read? Roxanne.
Once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned that I was not who I was told I was. My discernment of my attributes was the truth, and I was strong in this. I discerned that I could not be seen. Maybe this was true, maybe it was not, but it certainly served me and became a foundation for me. One thing I knew was that God was aware of me and that I belonged to God.
Any reflections? Marlena.
One thing I knew, that God was aware of me and I belonged to the God. There's something so deep, so from not just the heart, but the whole being in that really touches me as being beautiful.
Anybody else?
Can I ask Roxanne, can you reread that towards the beginning, what you said, that I was not who I was told
Once upon a time, far, far away, I discerned that I was not who I was told I was. My discernment of my attributes was the truth, and I was strong in this.
Yeah, what I saw was a framed photo cracking into pieces, and the pieces of the photo all like crumbling to the sides and then slowly reforming, but I never saw what it reformed to. It just was in that process of becoming.
Yeah. The whole passage for me was so rich. I kind of wanted you to stop every time you took a breath before the next sentence, because I was caught with the power of that sentence. And so it was packed, I felt like it packed a lot of authenticity and truth into this little chunk. Devora.
It also speaks to really good boundaries and knowing yourself and being able to move forward with confidence.
Mm,
That's just wonderful.
mm. So when you hear her
I mean,
passage,
to me, it's wonderful.
right.
I
Okay,
think
good.
that's all I can say. Yeah.
Good. I was just clarifying that. That's awesome. Yeah. Anybody else have any reflections for Roxanne? Does anybody else have a reading you'd like to do? You'd like to read? Anything you'd like to share with us? A telling? Susan, your question. I have a short answer that I'm going to give you, and if you want a longer answer, I'd love to have a longer conversation with you. Would that be okay? So the short answer is that our cognitive mind does a great job. Our prefrontal cortex does this great job at like organizing things and analyzing things and making meaning out of things and thinking about things. But it really gets in the way of creativity. And so what timed writing does, notice how in just 3 minutes, all this richness appeared, because by not stopping to think, by not stopping to make meaning, eventually, and if you do a 5 or a 10-minute timed writing, this can become more evident. In this little workshop we're doing here, we're just going to do little appetizers. But if you do a 5 or a 10-minute or even longer timed writing, where you truly get to the point that you're bored, that you don't know what to say, that you're annoyed that you're doing it, and then you keep going and you keep going, other parts of you start coming out that are not as regimented by the workings of our beautiful minds. And that's when some parts of you start coming out that are actually surprising. And if you keep writing and writing and writing, you might not even pay attention. You start getting into more of a flow. And it's only when reading it, you go, oh, I didn't even know I wrote that. So that's part of the power of the timed writing. Does that feel like a satisfying answer? Or is there anything missing that I can tell you?
Partly, what's missing is how you stop the judgment of how it's coming out.
Right.
Not the content at all, but the way that you are writing it.
That's a great question, Susan, and I'm going to put that out to the whole group. That's a wonderful part of the timed writing. Well done bringing that up. That judgment, that voice that's inside, that's criticizing you as you're writing, start narrating what that voice is telling you. I think I really suck. This is ridiculous. I don't even want, who am I to even think that I can write it? Who am I? Write that all out. Whatever that judgmental voice is, speak it. Just get it down on paper. Don't worry about it. Don't worry if it's horrible or not so horrible. That's a wonderful thing to do in timed writing and really will lead to it'll bear fruit. So I encourage you to try it.
Um,
Meira.
I am aware that I came to a certain point in the writing and it was one of those blah, blah, blah places, but instead of writing blah, 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 I thought, what else can I add? And it was clearly a thought. What else can I add?
That's right.
You can
That's
tell
right.
I'm doing it.
Yes, exactly. So you could just keep writing, what else should I write? What else should I write? What else should I write? Oh,
Then
I
I
was thinking
added
about, yeah. And if
constructive
you, and if you go a few minutes later, that's exactly right. That's right on par with what we're talking about. And eventually be like, oh, I was thinking about my mother the other day. And you just start writing that. You just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. That's a great example. Does anybody else have any? I'm sorry, Mayra. Sorry. Go ahead.
I interrupted. I said I have powerful frontal lobes that kept me on the topic. Going somewhere else.
That taskmaster. Well, I like your motion. You're just like for like maybe slapping it. Oh, yeah.
And then what do you do with it afterwards? What do you make of it afterwards? After you've done it?
That's a personal decision. So we access the story, we embody the story, we tell the story, and we witness the story. And by telling our stories, we're simultaneously telling them and witnessing ourselves telling the story as we're simultaneously telling the story and allowing other people to witness us. And within that process, there can be a lot of juicy stuff in that, Susan. And sometimes it's really hard to share our stories. Sometimes the purpose of it is just feel seen and heard. So people's reflections can feel really validating. They can also open up, when people give us a reflection and we go, oh, I never really looked at it that way. And that can give us another whole direction. The other thing that I like to do with this is in the telling, if there's a phrase or a word that stands out to you, circle it when you're reading it out loud to yourself or reading it to yourself or reading it to others. And then take that phrase, put that at the top of a new page and do a timed writing on that. And that way you just kind of keep digging into yourself and letting yourself go deeper and deeper into places that maybe you wouldn't have even known were there. So that's a lot about how I help people write memoirs and stuff too. Marlena.
I was just going to say Susan's question. Thank you, Susan. Helped me realize something because I wrote about something that happened last night and I was on a bench and I wrote and I decided on sort of a boundary kind of sort of issue. And in this poem, like I'm capturing beauty and I went on a bike ride this morning and the moon was out and all of nature was celebrating that I finally made this choice after so much sort of thinking and being, but not nearly like making a choice. And I didn't really realize until this poem that, I went a bike ride this morning and the moon was out this morning. And it's like I'm capturing all these things, but they're capturing and saying to me, you did the right thing. So that I think that goes to what you were saying and feels good insight.
Cool insight. Very neat. Anybody else have any reflections on the process and how it's been for them? Notice all you did was write for 3 minutes and all this stuff is coming up. So notice the power of this process. Anybody else?
We use this process in storytelling as well. And however many minutes it is, it's either for some people it's going to seem like it goes by like that, and other people it's going to go, whoa, this is like eternity. But for everyone, it serves as a container, or use Gavora, bookends, that kind of liberates us from having to be worried about this going on forever, in a way. And so that's basically my comment, that it gives some structure to to being judgmental about what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, because if it's only within a 2 or 3 minute time frame, then there's only so much you can put down that you can really be negative about if that's where you want to go with it. And also it forces you to confront our limitations or or the tales, as Roxanne said, that we've been told that we can't write or we don't have a story to tell. All of those no's that we come to believe after a while. Just get out of that, as you were saying, Yael. Let's get out of that head and just write.
Yeah. And it's amazing that, thank you, Red Mark. That's a wonderful bridge. And as we're writing and doing this timed writing, notice how it was a 3-minute writing. Notice how quickly the judgment comes in. Notice how quickly it's right there. And so, since it's right there, why not just greet it and say, okay, come on in. Everybody's welcome. And see what happens next. And that's really another part of it as well. Okay, it's 6:25. Can we do one more writing? Okay, so the prompt we'll use are, okay, let me put it in the chat. When I investigate the boundaries around my heart, when I investigate the boundaries around my heart, and we'll do 4 minutes. How's that? Okay, finish up what you're writing. Ah, I love how everybody is still writing. That's always a fun sign. So just know you can come back to this and just notice how some sort of a flow has kicked in that feels different, maybe, than the brainiacs we all are. So welcome home to yourself, and now welcome home back to all of us. Notice what it feels like to have gone home to yourself. Notice that yummy feeling. That's all yours. You own that. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody can tell you how to do it. It's all yours. Who might like to share? Roxanne?
Yeah, so three things came together that I did not know were related, so that's really, really fun. When I investigate the boundaries around my heart, I realize they are kept supple, and I never use the word supple, so that was really weird. I had to stop for a second there. Are kept supple by my friendships and by stories of loving kindness in the world. I love those. Both friendships and stories of goodness are soothing, refreshing, strengthening. Also, a good song is like that. A good song can remind me to be brave and loving. All three then, friendships, stories of goodness in the world, and songs that could be sung wholeheartedly.
Mm.
Mm.
Anybody have any reflections on that yumminess? That's my reflection. Yum! Go ahead. Anybody else?
Amen.
Amen. Don.
I really like the three-pronged feeling of these different things that bring on, as Yael saying, yumminess. Especially the song. That's I really resonated with that part. So thank you.
Who else might like to share? Thank you, Don. Neira.
Okay, I wrote what came through with all the stuff I normally cross out. Okay.
Oh, wait, hang on a second, Neira. Do you have a reflection for Roxanne before you
Oh,
read?
no.
You will read next then. Let's just see if there's any more reflections. Thank you. Devorah.
Well, I was listening to you speaking, Roxanne, and I just wanted to jump up and go, I want to be your friend.
Lovely. Marlena.
And I'll just say I love the soothing song and the friend piece and the whole thing because it felt like a song listening.
And I wanted to hum and hum and hum along.
Beautiful. Anybody else have any reflections for Roxanne? Okay, Meira, would you like to read yours?
Well, I wouldn't like to. This is totally an exercise in what I wouldn't want to present.
Okay, well, pretend none of us are looking at you.
Okay. Not me, you don't recognize my voice. Okay. When I investigate the boundaries around my heart, I see that I still have some, what word, I can't think, blockage. It's a barrier, a shield. Now it's flowing that I want to fully come down, stop judging. It's pedestrian. Okay, good thoughts, but dull writing. There is a membrane that is porous, but still supports from outside. Oops, I crossed out. The support I long for is within, in each cell, each ventricle, all my bones, the God sparks. I am rushing to get this in. They are the support that means I need no shield. I'm impatient. This is emerging. I am blocking out thoughts Where are my thoughts going? Outside, I hear the highway, I smell the air, I'm ready for my walk. That's what
Thank you.
really happens in my head.
That's right. That's right. It's kind of like you dipped your head and it all just drained out of your ear,
Yeah,
right? Who has any reflections for Meira?
Do
Roxanne.
thank you for I felt like I took a journey with you, like I was riding on a bumpy road in a car with you, and we were just like it was light, so like we were laughing about how bumpy the road is, and that was really great.
Mary Rita.
Well, I was on a bike on a bumpy road with you. I just loved how honest it was. It was like, whoa, it was like flowing consciousness.
Beautiful. Mark.
I'm in the midst of finishing touches on an article I was asked to write for a book, a chapter, and so now you've given me an earworm. You're good words, bad writing.
Ah.
No, you said good thoughts, bad writing, right? Yeah, so thanks for that. Don,
You've just undermined all of his work, Mayura. Good job at being a disruptor. Who else wants to share? Don.
I just really liked how you let that flow. It just was really fun to hear. And I admired the courage to just let yourself do that, even though you had to kind of initially look down when you started reading because it was too embarrassing. But that was so cool. It just was really great.
Mary Rita.
Well, I think that it opened the door, at least to me, to, it's like if Mayra can read, like I can read what I wrote down, except I liked the more honest kind of comments that came out in between that, it was like, okay, put your thoughts in there, Mary Rita.
Right. That's an excellent point. And so I wanted to call attention to that. For those of you who want to do more time writing on your own, and all you need is a little timer, and you just set it for 5 minutes or whatever you want and just go. Notice how Meira also said, oops, I crossed that out. I shouldn't have done that. Like she narrated every single thing happening. That's what you want to do. So that was a great example of really getting into the flow of the timed writing. Yep. Excellent. Who else has any reflections for Meira? Okay. So we have about 5 more minutes left of our session. And so I wonder, is it dark on the East Coast? Great. So before we say the prayer, well, why don't we say the prayer and then I'll do a little short closing. Does that sound okay, Red Mark?
That sounds perfect, yeah.
Okay, great.
All righty, I'm going to share my screen with everybody. L'shem yichud kudsha brichu shechintei hineni muchanum zuman l'kayem mitzvat aseh sfirat haomer shel sfirat haomer shel Sfirat HaOmer, Shel Sfirat HaOmer. Sheva Shabbatot, Timimot Tiena. Sheva Shabbatot, Timimot Tiena. Ay 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר, על ספירת העומר, על ספירת העומר, על ספירת העומר. היום 9 ימים שהם שבוע אחד ושני ימים לעומר. Today is the 9th day of the Omer גבורה של בגבורה. ידה די 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 ידה די 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 ידה די 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 ידה די די די.
Gorgeous. Thank you. So for those of you who now have the darkness of the new day falling upon you and within you and around you, welcome to the celebration of Gevurah, Shema Gevurah. And I want to thank you all for your engaged attention and really appreciate that. And if you have any questions whatsoever about any of this, you know where to find me. And I look forward to talking with you more about it. And until then, maybe you can all just shout out a few words about what your takeaways are from this session we've done together about counting the Omer.
Fun.
Authentic.
Authentic, fun,
Be brave.
be brave.
A way to open, like to be brave and open the flow as I meet each night of the Spirot. Yeah.
Mm,
Ask more questions.
ask more questions. Yeah.
Very
Authentic flow.
revealing.
Oops.
Oh.
Marlena?
Authentic flow. Just,
Authentic
we
flow.
started off with the river, and it just feels that way.
Devorah?
Very revealing and also manageable because of the short time. Spurts,
Revealing.
like spurts, yeah.
The little short bursts of 3 and 4 minutes.
Mhm.
Revealing and manageable. Who else wants to share? Amy.
Making time to honor the holy, or like sanctifying the time that we're in now.
Sanctifying. Holy. Anybody else?
Gratitude to you, Yael, and to everyone who has gathered this evening. For everyone who didn't come this evening, you blew it.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Red Mark, for inviting me. And I'll see you guys all very soon.
Thank you, Yael.